Dude, I think I did it. Ela. Anmol, have you done live streaming ever? Like, do you have experience with live streaming? That's a very good
Dude,
question.
I think I did it.
Oh, it's
Ela.
happening. There's a lag, but it's happening.
Anmol, have you done live streaming ever? Like, do you have experience?
Shush, girl. Hi.
unlocks so many things for you, right from your project management to you building certain things, to building your portfolio. Everything can be done with Notion. And that's how we came to the idea that, oh, we have an amazing person, we have an amazing software. So why not let's get amazing people, folks like you, and do something together. So that's what we are going to do today. We are going to understand Notion in depth, what Notion, how powerful Notion AI is, and what are the things that you can do. You will hands-on be building your portfolio in Notion as well, under the guidance of course, Vensi. And then amazing, huh? Some software engineer, social media manager, will come together as usual, go up. I want all of you to check out our upstairs space as well, and interact with each other. And for the people who are alcoholic, we have amazing cocktails for you today. For the people who are non-alcoholic, I may get some juice or Coke for you. Sorry for that. But that's how exactly what we are going to do today. And to start with, awesome. So let's quickly understand the agenda. We wanted you guys to come here early today and interact, but unfortunately that hasn't happened. And I'm getting this vibe that you guys are just like those people who want to come, sit, and leave. Am I wrong or am I right? Yeah. Please prove me wrong then. Awesome. So we will do a networking session. At the start, we wanted to do that. At the end, also we'll end our entire event with that. Of course, I'll take 2 minutes of yours to introduce Growth School for the people who don't know what exactly we do. Then we will dive deep into Notion AI, where Vensi will tell you the power of Notion, what are the things that you can do with Notion. Then we will do a portfolio building activity, which is going to be amazing, because you have a very tangible takeaway from today's interaction that we are going to have. And after that, we will, of course, present the really good portfolios that you guys have built for yourselves. And then we will have Q&A with Vensi, and then we will break for networking. Any questions, any confusion? No? Awesome. So let's get started. Yes, we have it. We have it. Okay, great. So we are very, very excited to host you, but let's take 2 minutes to actually understand who we are, that you guys have chosen to be your learning partner, your companion in this particular journey. So we are a place where, well, I don't want to put fancy words. We all are educated in our conventional education system, and we all know what the difference your industry demands and what you are actually studying. There is a big gap, and that's what we are trying to fill in, wherein we are trying to get the people get you the access to the people who have already done that, and know what the hurdles are, the problems are in the journey, and are the best people to guide you in whatever profession that you want to go ahead and become the top 1% in that. I think Ankur have heard this a lot of times now. So awesome. Some of the people that we have on board are on your screen right now. As you can see, the companies that are on the screen are either pioneer in their particular industry or have set their mark in the industry that they are working in. Now, when we talk about these industries or these organizations, the people who have built that are the major contributors of where they are right now. So if you want to learn app marketing, why not learn from a person who headed business for apps in Google? So you understand it exactly. Same goes for Meta, same goes for all the companies that we have.
Not joining the call, and it's not streaming like whatever you're talking about. Once more. We didn't do that.
Okay. So one thing is, of course, you're going to learn under the mentorship of amazing people. But second thing is, this is not a lonely journey, right? It can't be between you and your mentor. You need proper environment to not just sustain, but thrive in the profession that you are aiming for. And that's the second thing that we believe in. You should get the right kind of exposure, the right kind of people to support you and guide you in their journey. So the second pillar that we really believe at Growth School is the community that you will be forming. Because When it comes to mentee-mentor relationship, you will be learning from one perspective, but when you open those learnings for community, there are thousands of perspectives you can take away from. So that's what we are trying to provide. So we are a passionate community of 350K learners till now who have in one way or the other interacted with us. And with you guys coming in, it's going bigger and stronger. So kudos for all of you. And what happens in the community, right? So one is we have a lot of peer-to-peer learning engagement, and of course, a lot of initiatives which can help you get where you want to be. So when I talk about engagements, one engagement is you are already part of the offline workshop on the mixer. Apart from that, we keep on doing mixers, events, workshops, marathons. If you are marketing folks, definitely check out the 100-day marathon that we are doing at the year end. Will be really, really beneficial for you. So small activities which can actually instill the qualities of the profession that you are going to work in, because no matter whether you call it managerial or individual contributor, in today's scenario, every position is a people's position. So come, interact, learn, understand what is stakeholder management, and a lot of other things that we do in the community. So a few things that we have been doing. Sorry. Yeah, so the few things that we have been doing inside the community. So as I was talking about the 3 pillars on which growth schools stand, one is access to real life practitioner, learn from the people who have been there, be a part of powerful community who will be with you at every step of your career. And third is learn by doing. So with just look at today's agenda. You're not gonna just listen and go. You're gonna do it. You're gonna build it with us, and then only move out of this room, because I'm gonna lock that room. You're not going out till you show us your portfolio. Awesome. So what exactly we are doing, right? Our vision is to decentralize education and build and deliver it the way it should have been, which means that no education, no matter how good it is, should not be as expensive as something that you can say I can't afford. Because that's what is going to help you in your career. So one is it should be affordable. Second is should be impactful. When I say impactful, what are the tangible outcomes you are getting out of learning that? So that's who we are. That's what we focus on. We are backed by the amazing companies like Sequoia Capital, Owl Ventures, and 80+ Angels. These 80+ Angels are amazing entrepreneurs or professionals in their own space, and they are also mentors at so yeah, we are a bit smart there. Awesome. So that's the hustling that we are doing, and that's what you guys are part of. So really, welcome to the Growth School family. Hope we build on a lot of new things here together. Awesome. So let's go ahead in the agenda. Let's go ahead with our first thing that
you have the wrong legs. What's possible with
Notion AI? So I have already introduced Wency. Come on, clap, guys.
Awesome. Once have you joined the call? Yeah. Then we'll stop sharing. You can share your screen.
Okay. All right. No mic? Okay, we'll manage without a mic then for a while. Okay, hi everyone. So nice to meet you. That's a mic. No, that's what we Okay, hi everyone, and a very warm welcome to this portfolio building workshop that we're doing on Notion. So we're going to have a brief introduction to Notion because we do have a few people who are beginners So if you've never, can you tell me by a show of hands, how many of you have actually sort of identify yourselves as either beginners, intermediates, or experts? So how many of you are beginners at Notion? Oh, okay. The majority of you are beginners, intermediate. Okay, and experts. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's why I'm on this side of the class, right? But great. So let's start with an introduction. This one? This one? Yeah. Okay, but as long as the last benchers can hear me, I think it's all good. All right. So in today's workshop, the first component is just becoming a little more familiar with what is possible with Notion itself, even before we go into the AI feature that was released recently. So Notion AI is actually available to a very few people across the world and maybe a couple of people in India right now. And so I will give you a demo of what is possible, what it looks like, what it does. You could probably give me some prompts and we will see how it works, right? That's all exciting and stuff, but that's sort of like, that's like later stuff for now. What we're going to do is just understand what is possible with Notion. What is Notion? Why should you be excited by it? So to introduce myself, I am Vansi. I am the founder of Build Academy. I am a no-code educator, which means that I teach people to build websites, apps, automations without writing a line of code. I'm actually a lawyer by training. I've been in the no-code space for many years now. And I sort of moved my career into tech a couple of years ago. And then I'm a full-time educator right now. I'm also a Notion ambassador, which means that I teach people how to use Notion. I consult with companies to set up workspaces for them. And I also create digital products out of Notion to encourage wide adoption across the world. So let's talk a little bit about what Notion is for those of you who are actually identifying as beginners out here. So the simple answer is Notion can be anything. Some of you might have come across it as a note-taking tool. Some of the others might have realized it as a project management tool in your companies. But it's also a website builder. It can be a company HQ, an intranet, a knowledge management system, a daily planner, to-do list. You can build anything that you want. So effectively, what Notion does is, for those of us who use Google Docs or Google Sheets or Google Drive, it replaces all of those and much more. Because of the embeds and the widgets that are possible to be integrated with Notion, along with the Notion API that was released last year, it's a very, very powerful tool which can integrate your entire workspace, personal, professional, or otherwise. So I want to give you a few examples of what that might look like. So as already pointed out, we're going to be learning and networking today, but all of what I'm going to show you right now starts with a blank page, a blank canvas on Notion. Looks very similar to a Google Doc, right? With a little more added functionalities. But once you start here, you can build a range of products. First, for a personal use case, you could build a digital planner for your use. For a professional use case, you could build your entire CV as a Notion document instead of actually designing it on a Microsoft Word doc and converting it into a PDF every time there is a change. So for instance, my CV is actually hosted as a Notion doc. And for the last I actually have applied for probably 2 jobs so far in the last couple of years. But for both jobs, that was the CV that was sent. My CV is based on Notion. So anytime there's a professional update, I change my Notion doc. And because everyone has the same link, it updates across, right? So it's like a LinkedIn page, except much more in your control. You can edit it from the convenience of your phone. The other thing you can build is a company HQ, which means that if you have maybe a company, but also a non-profit, it could be a small team, it could be your home that you're running with your family, right? You could build an HQ and a headquarters of sorts where you can collaborate with people and build something that really works for you. So I'm going to show you quickly what that might look like. But before that, I'm going to give you a few more examples that might not be very intuitive as to what Notion is or what it can be used for. So with respect to websites and landing pages, Notion can actually be used as a very, very powerful content management system. If you actually go to my personal website right now, it's vensi.me. For those of you who might be interested, vensi.me takes you to a website where there's blogs, there's blog posts, there's an about me, portfolio, events, all of that. Would you believe me if I told you that every single page that you will see on my website is actually built and hosted on Notion? Similarly, all the skills that you're building right now as a Notion practitioner can be monetized in plenty of ways. The easiest of which is basically creating digital products in the form of Notion templates and selling them in a place like Gumroad or Etsy. The final way in which you can really take this knowledge that you're learning in this workshop or any other way is through applying to be a Notion consultant. Now, Notion consultant is one of the hardest certifications out there that are actually officially recognized by Notion. But you don't need the certification itself to be a Notion consultant. You could still go out and work with companies and help them set up their workspaces. But it is a very upcoming field of, it's sort of like the side hustle if you're passionate about passive income. Let me just show you what I mean by all of these examples. I'm going to show you the personal use is this planner that I built on Notion that was built completely on a Notion doc. I built this in 12 hours in a hackathon called Half Day Build. Okay, let me just show you what that looks like. So this is the planner that I was telling you about. And this was built in 12 hours entirely on Notion. And it allows you to manage your entire year. And it basically has a bunch of embeds, pages, templates, so all of the advanced features that Notion offers, it includes all of those, right? This is a product that I actually created. I use it for myself, but also I sell it as a product on my digital store. The CV that I was telling you about, let me quickly share that. I'm not sure if you're able to see that. This is my CV that is entirely built and hosted on Notion. So this is the link that basically, when you click on share and make sure that it's public, you copy this link and you shorten it by using a service like a Bitly and make sure that that is the link that you're sharing every single time, right? So it's easy for people to see what you're up to. My CV looks something like this. It's actually available as a product on my digital store again. So the other idea that I gave you was of a company HQ, right? So last year in 2021, I was part of this COVID relief project where I created an app to help people find oxygen and hospital beds. So what happened was when the app went viral, we needed a bunch of people to work with us. So it was just me initially, but then it became 3 and then 30 people and then 100 people and 150 people and so many people working together. Nobody could meet because it was all locked down and everyone was working remotely and asynchronously from across the world. Remotely meaning no one meets anymore. Asynchronously means everyone works when they can on whatever they can. So the way it was possible, and we didn't have even one Zoom call, the reason that was possible was because of Notion. Our entire team headquarters was based on Notion. So the mission control, as you can see, was based on Notion, something like this. And every team had their own page, as in their own sort of section. Every person had their own page. Everyone had their own workspace. And all the playbooks were hosted on this. The other thing I did was I actually made this a template and I made this available freely for other teams across the world to quickly duplicate and sign in. Okay, so this TV is not cooperating with me at all. But this is the mission control that I was telling you about. So this is the mission control. Every team had their own section. Every volunteer had their own space. Certain teams had specific sections that could be replicated quickly. Super admins had a different section. All the playbooks were in one place. Press kit was in one place because we're getting a lot of coverage suddenly. So that was the Notion page that we were sending to all the media houses and podcasts, interviews, press, everyone. So Notion was really what powered our entire team. So as you can see, it's not just for companies. Even if you're, let's say, you're studying in a college and you have a debate club, for instance, it's a very handy place to collaborate with all of your teammates on. Now, initially, maybe you're doing that to in some capacity on Google Docs, when people could come together and edit the same document, which is what is possible definitely on Notion. But what Notion enables you to do is much more than just an editing one document, right? You can use this it's not just typing things, you can embed things, you can create databases. Databases are incredibly powerful. There's formulae, there's embeds, there's widgets. So you can work in a very meaningful capacity in that way. The other thing I wanted to show you was how to use Notion as a content management system. So this is my website right now. And all of these blog posts and all of these pages about speaking, all of this, I actually have them set up as individual Notion pages. Right? So Notion is my content management system, which means that if you find a typo right now on one of those pages and let me know, I basically open my phone on my Notion app, I correct that, and then it gets automatically edited, which means that it minimizes friction for most of the writers out there. The moment I have an idea, I start typing it on my phone, right? So it's incredibly powerful that way. The next thing I wanted to show you was about the monetization abilities. So technically speaking, well, this is Gumroad. Yesterday, Gumroad actually came up with a revision to their pricing, and that was a dumpster fire that they're still not able to put out. But point is, if you're a smaller creator and you're just getting started, Gumroad is really easy for you to get started with selling your digital products, especially distributing them for free, which can be very, very useful, right? When you're just getting started and you want that reach, it's a very handy way to capture emails and distribute your Notion templates. It's actually where we all started. Most of the ambassadors or digital creators, I guess I started in 2020 with a free template that I created. That is still there, by the way, somewhere. If you scroll down long enough, there's one product called the Annual Visualization Guide, which I usually refresh every year. So that was what I started my entire Notion journey with. I actually started using Notion in 2018, but only after I realized how powerful databases were and everything was when my actual journey began. I was using Notion only as a note-taking tool for 2 entire years. And then I realized that it could be so much more if you figure out how to use some of the interesting features. The last thing I want to talk to you about, probably not the last thing, but something important. And as a reminder, all of whatever I just showed you begins on a blank canvas that looks exactly like that. So do not be intimidated by experts. Do not be intimidated by all these beautiful templates that you see out there. We all started on that same page. If anything, we were all inspired by so many other people outside. And so there's a lot of, imitation. There's a lot of copying that happens, not plagiarism. I'm talking about imitation being a form of flattery. Plagiarism is something that no one likes, especially in the creator community. It is a big red flag. So just letting you know that don't copy paste stuff blatantly. Whenever you copy stuff, make sure that you attribute it to the right person and say, this is where I was inspired from. Those are the best practices. Something like Notion, it's very easy to copy things and set it up for yourself. So be ethical about it, be moral about it. Most importantly, don't break any laws. So the next few steps I want to talk to you about after the workshop is done is, number one, as I showed you, there's many ways in which you can really, you can monetize, and also you can empower yourself with this skill of building with Notion. And so mastering Notion is going to be a really useful skill in the long term. And so one of the ways you can do that is by joining the community. If you're not active on Twitter, please be active on Twitter. The world's biggest Notion freaks are on Twitter, and anytime you need some help or anytime you need some advice, Notion community on Twitter is the most active. There is a very active community on Reddit as well, for sure. But if you build in public, there are compounding effects that will play out for you in the long run, and therefore Twitter is going to be a better place. The final thing is downloading of templates. So while templates are you can't like copy paste stuff from templates and everything, sure. But one way in which you can really build your builder muscle or your Notion muscle is through downloading templates from Gumroad stores like the one I showed you. But try to reverse engineer exactly what you're seeing on the page. So that's actually one of the ways in which I learned Notion. When I started learning Notion 2018, 19, 20, no one was really teaching it. Okay, so the way I learned it is by, of course, trial and error, but one of the ways you can fast track that learning is by seeing what someone else has built and try to replicate that. So that is actually something similar. What we're going to do today is I've built a portfolio. We're going to try to replicate that, right? So just your life becomes easy as a learner. So the next, and this is the last thing I wanted to tell you, is for those of you who are getting better at Notion and you're slowly getting ready to move to the intermediate stage. I mean, even if you're already at the intermediate stage, that's even better. But I have a Notion specific hackathon that I would love for you guys to attend. This is going to happen in Bangalore on the 25th and 26th of February in 2023. That's about a couple of months away. This is what it's showing on the top right is the general no code weekend. That is not the date. This is the date. So if you want to register, the early bird interest form is up right now. It's a Luma event. That is the QR code for it. Basically, it's a Notion specific hackathon, which is going to happen as an IRL event. It's not an online event. People are going to come down to Bangalore, or if you're already in Bangalore, then you come down to a specific place. You are challenged in the span of 24 hours. So it's going to be an overnight hackathon where you're going to be given a fictional problem statement, and you're going to be building out a workspace on that problem statement. And of course, there's exciting prizes, perks, merch, all of that, sure. But mainly it's going to be bragging rights, because most importantly, there are going to be people from the Notion community who are going to be involved in the organization at some level or the other. So I would love for you to check out this event. It is going to happen in Bangalore. I actually founded this no code weekend as a tool agnostic no code hackathon last year. Usually we don't specify what tools you can use. So those happen once every quarter. But in addition to that no code weekend hackathon, we're also hosting a Notion specific hackathon in February. So if you want to participate in any hackathons, this is like the best place for you to get started for sure, especially if you're a non-technical person. There's no better hackathon to get started. Usually hackathons are always on the realm of coders and people, who are like slogging away writing pages of code. But we want to change that narrative. I want to show you what you can build. And if you push yourself in that really tight deadlines, what is possible. So more details about all of this are there in that QR code. If you want to check that out, do go ahead. So yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to introduce you to what is possible with Notion and what your next steps can look like, very realistically speaking, because most of you are here because you love the tool. Most of you are here because you want to learn more about what you can do with these skills. So what we're going to do now is, even before the portfolio building segment, I wanted to show you Notion AI. So let's get started with Notion AI. And we will take a short couple of minutes of break. Before that, I just want to make sure that you have access to this worksheet that I'm showing you on the screen right now, that you're not able to see on the screen right now because the TV is not showing it up. This link is actually been sent to you on WhatsApp. So just check that out. Make sure that you have access to this sheet, because this is the Notion worksheet that we're going to be using throughout the build. Okay. Okay, so whenever you're ready, we can start with the AI part. All right, guys. So when you finally have access to the Notion AI, can you change the angle to that, please? I'll move this way. You'll cover that and me that way. Yeah, because stuff will get interesting from now. Please, I hope that you guys are going to give some interesting prompts. Okay, so when you finally have access to the Notion AI, so whenever you click on a new page in Notion, you usually have an empty page, empty with icon or templates, right? When you finally have access to the Notion AI, this is the other additional section that you suddenly get. So it says, help me write blog posts, brainstorm ideas, and more. And you have a whole list of things that it can do. Now, instead of doing all of this, what I'm going to do is going to go with an empty page. I'll tell you why. Because if I go with help me write, it automatically takes the title of the page as the prompt, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to go with empty page. And as usual, whenever you start building something on Notion, the first way in which you add a block is by /, right? Similarly, when I say /AI, it comes up with AI assist. That's basically what happens. Now, recently, yesterday in one of the events in Bangalore, I went ahead with a bunch of prompts. So it's showing me the recent actions. So I'm going to go delete those because we don't want to be swayed by those. Let's go ahead with the first one called help me write. Okay. For example, 5 reasons why we should hire a dedicated designer for this project. So give me a prompt similar to something like that. Maybe something like 5 reasons why I love Bangalore. Okay. And let's see what it does. Okay. So I'm going to type that and I'm going to click generate and then starts writing stuff. The weather, the food, the architecture, the culture, and the people. So if you're happy with this, that's great. If you're not, you can always go ahead and say, keep writing or try again. For now, this is all right. I want to show you exactly what is possible. So I'm going to say / continue writing. If I click on continue writing, it doesn't always work because what happens is it takes the prompt from the page title, right? So essentially, I want to remind you that Notion AI is an alpha, which means that it is even before the beta stage. There's a baby and people who have access to that alpha right now are training it. Right now, it's not very smart. So for example, when I say continue writing, it's not very smart to understand you wanted to continue writing the points. So it's taking the prompt from the title itself. Sorry, someone talking? Yeah? Oh, okay. Got it. So for example, because this is a paragraph and I click on continue writing here, it will realize that it has to continue writing from there. But because this was a listicle, it's not very smart about that. That's okay. Let's go ahead and try more. Brainstorm ideas about, let's say you have a new business idea. Okay. You can ask it ideas for the business name. If you want ideas for a marketing campaign because you're a marketer or you have a startup, you don't want a marketer, it will give you marketing ideas. So quickly give me like a description of a startup right now. So brainstorm ideas for a marketing campaign for a startup that does what? Give me ideas on one of the startups that you're familiar with or you're working with right now. Okay, but actually growth school is a very vague sort of, it's a very generic kind of term, right? Growth and school. It might not realize that you're asking for this particular startup. Instead of that, we could be a little more specific and say for a new age educational startup, maybe. And we have to be a little smart about this and tweak it a little whenever needed. And now we will start giving you ideas. Offer virtual courses and webinars, give away free consulting sessions, participate in online symposiums and events, referral program, leverage influencers, online ad campaigns, discounts, innovative learning tools, case studies, develop a mobile app. So we could, sorry. Guys, if you want to give me a prompt, please be a little louder and I can definitely take that into account. So one other thing I want to tell you, how the summarize feature works is whatever is on the entire page, it will summarize that. So I'm going to use that at the end. because we're coming up with so much here. So I'm not going to do that justice yet. I'm going to go ahead with more and I'm going to show you what else is possible here. So it can actually give you action items, blog posts, pros and cons list, social media post, outline, creative story, can even write poems or essays, meeting agendas, press releases, job description, sales email, and recruiting email. So let's stick to pros and cons list, let's say. What is the decision that you're making right now that you're brainstorming on pros and cons about? That's a great question, right? Pros and cons of being an entrepreneur. Yeah, just being an entrepreneur, right? So let's go ahead with that. Pros: allows you to be your own boss, earn a good living, develop and market an idea. That's all great. Cons: involves taking risks. It can be difficult to find the right people, lack of experience, costly mistakes, higher likelihood of failure, and a lot of competition in the business world. So what it's doing right now and what we're giving it right now are not really great prompts. I feel like we can do much better. So can you think a little more about specific prompts about how something like this can really come of use in your life? I mean, could be help me write instead of a listicle, but yeah, or it could be like a creative story, right? You could ask it to write a creative story and ask it to write an alternative ending to Game of Thrones. I mean, I'm not going to do that right now because that's what you should do after you get access to Notion AI, but that's definitely possible. For example, in Chennai, when we had this, we took it for a spin and we asked it to write a review for Bahubali, both a positive one and a negative one. We asked it to write a review for Pathan, even though it's not released back then. It went through the news sites to understand what is possible, a possible storyline based on the trailer and everything. And then it came up with a review saying these are good, these are not good. So it's smart, not great, but it is definitely smart in that regard. So if you're, for example, a content writer, this has the potential of taking away your job. And this is still in the alpha stage. So the moment it enters the beta and a full, if you actually talk about the other tools like Copy AI and other tools that are already full-fledged, working in the market, they're quite good. Notion is not as great, but it's not very far off. So if you've used ChatGPT, it is not as good as ChatGPT, but I can definitely see it getting there very quickly because this is still in alpha and we're still like figuring out things. So let's go ahead with the creative story and I'll show you what is possible. Give it a prompt. Yesterday, they came up with a prompt that said a story that has a meeting between Baba Ramdev and Elon Musk. And I wrote an incredible story. So you tell me what a prompt would be. That might be interesting for you.
Okay, so Baba Ramdev and Elon Musk both are alive right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a podcast, My First Million.
Mm-hmm.
In that, they were using some tool which created an audio file with Elon Musk, Joe Rogan and Steve Jobs talking together.
Let's try.
Can you do that? Joe Rogan podcast with Steve Jobs.
It won't create audio files, obviously.
Just the context.
Actually, Joe Rogan conversation, I would say, instead of podcast. It's too specific otherwise. Let's see what happens. So I started writing it. Had a chance to sit down with the late Steve Jobs to pick his legendary brain. What they discuss is mind-blowing. Steve Jobs is a man full of wisdom. He knew exactly what he wanted to say. So this is actually written in the form of a third person narrating a story because it's a creative story. But you could definitely ask it to write it in a different tone, a different kind of format. For example, if I asked it to, for example, let me show you what is possible. Help me write differences between. Tell me what you want differences between Hyderabad and Bangalore, maybe. Table. So this actually worked for me before last week when I tried it. So let's see if it works here. So as you can see, it knows that you wanted to write it in a table as well. It actually builds a table for you. So similarly, if you change some of the prompts to mention the kind of format you want it in, it is definitely interested in taking that forward. Where it's not very smart though is about where the prompts are taken from. Sometimes, as you saw in the beginning, continue writing, it doesn't know where to continue writing from sometimes. So you might have to be a little more specific. The other way in which it's not very smart is it's not trained much, right? So stuff that has happened very recently, probably it's not very smart about, or just like ChatGPT, it makes claims very confidently, which you might want to cross check. So it's just like a person. If you have to decide if you want to believe that person or not. At some point, you might want to cross check things just because it's so important for you. Because, if it means that your career is going to be destroyed, you're going to be cross-checking things if a person tells you that, right? So similarly, this is going to do the same thing. It doesn't have any fiduciary duty towards you. So they will tell you that we're not responsible for the content that it's providing right now. So going forward, I believe that it's going to be much more smart about the things that it's saying. But for now, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But I just wanted to show you the possibilities of what are really happening with the AI. Just wanted to recap by showing you what is possible. All of these are possible. It can even write an entire blog post. Let's say you're a travel blogger. You don't have the interest of creating an entire blog post for that week. You already have a video and stuff. You just ask it to write blog post, traveling to Berlin. Let's say that's what you have to write. And you said generate blog post. So exploring Berlin, a traveler's guide, introduction, historic landmarks, cuisine, local culture, and conclusion. So if you like it, great, you can keep it, or you can ask it to try again with a little change in the prompt if you like it. Let's say positive or negative, and then it'll change the tone. So historic sites, delicious cuisine. So because we said positive, it's using a few more words to make it sound positive overall. So great. So these are the few things I wanted to point out today, because it's a basic introduction to the possibilities itself. Of course, we have another component of this workshop. So let's move on to that very quickly. And I'm going to stop sharing this part of my screen. Make sure that your screen is open to this worksheet, because this has all the information that you need for the rest of the workshop. Okay, great. So in part of the worksheet, actually, if you scroll down enough, it says what we're creating, and there's a link to a Notion portfolio. If you open that, you will go to this page, which will be the demo of the portfolio that we're going to be building today. Yeah. So let me minimize this a little bit so that you can see everything that's happening on my screen. So actually speaking, this is better. Yeah, this one is better. This is the public view of the portfolio. So it looks something like this. It has a first header section. You refresh it, it probably come up with a cover. You don't need to add a cover, but if you wanted to add a cover of you actually talking to people, then that's great. So there's a top header section. There is a work experience section. There's a recognition section, project section, and a footer. Okay, it's very straightforward. You can use this template and create a very, very complicated looking portfolio going forward. But this is what we're going to get started with. So we're going to focus on 3 aspects of the build today. So the first one is the layout itself of how a portfolio is really organized and what it can do if you use Notion for it. The second aspect is the way in which you use databases. So all 3 sections that you're seeing here are databases. They just look a little different and they're built a little different. And when you open each of them, they actually have stuff going inside. So that's the third part. Third part is setting up templates, recurring templates, default templates that will work for you across sections. Okay, so let's quickly get started on this. Make sure that everything is closed on your screen. just so that it's easier for you. The other thing is we're going to be referring back to this page over and over. For those of you on the Zoom call, you'll be able to see me switch screens. But for you who are here, the TV is not going to be that quick in seeing page to page. So what we're going to do is, if I tell you that I'm referring to the portfolio, you can always open it. So this portfolio page, make sure it's open in a tab beside, so that if you want to refer to it at any point, you can instantaneously shift tabs and see where you're going right, or where you need inspiration for. Okay. All right. So let's get started building this. So just make sure you have a Notion account. Otherwise, you could just set it up right now. Make sure you have a new page open. And I am going to screencast it here. Okay. Everyone starts with this empty page, right? Everyone's ready with that blank page. The first thing you want to do is title it with your name. Make sure that this page, even before you go ahead, make sure that on the top right, there's 3 dots, right? In those 3 dots on the top right, make sure it's set to full width. Okay. It's important for you to set it up at full width and then go ahead with an empty page. Okay. Empty page, full width, it'll look exactly like this. Ideally, you should give it an icon. So add icon, whatever you want. I like going with this star for a portfolio because this is going to be a publicly shared one. Otherwise, you could go with a briefcase if that is what you're going with. Or the last option is a laptop. All right. So what happens when you have these icons is when you have these pages bookmarked or being set up on the left-hand side of your panel, when you have the right icons, it's easier for you to click on the right page. Okay. Set an icon, set the title, make sure it's full width, and then we can get started. Okay. So as I told you, the first thing in building this portfolio, it's all about learning layouts. So the first part of the layout, if you go back to the portfolio, you can see that the header section has 3 columns, right? So the first header section has 3 columns. Please check that on your tab. The first column in that section is a picture. The second one is just a basic introduction. And the third one is education. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, you can see on the screen now. So there's a picture on the left, there's an introduction in the middle, and there's education on the right. We're going to build that first. Okay. So the first aspect is building those columns themselves. So first thing I like to do is setting up those columns. The easiest way to do it, honestly, is /3 columns, and then it sets 3 columns up for you. That's about it. So if you click and drag, you can confirm that you have 3 columns now. You have 3 blocks there. Whoops. This was happening way too many times. Yeah, now you can see it. Let me do it again. So the easiest way to create those 3 columns is /3 columns. Literally, I'm typing 3 columns and 3 columns have popped up. I'm going to click on that to confirm that that worked. I'm just going to click and drag my mouse to make sure that there are 3 blocks there, right? If that doesn't happen, the other way you can always do it is obviously there's 1 block here, enter for another block, enter for another block. Click and drag that block right next to the other one at the end like that. You have like little blue line popping up, leave it. So now you have 2 columns, right? Do it once more. Just the same thing, do it once more onto the right. Now you have 3. Yeah. Straightforward, right? So this is how you build columns in Notion. If you haven't done that before, because Notion is based on blocks, it's easier to move things around that way. All right. All of this is great. What I want you to do now is open the portfolio worksheet, and go to the page that says the place of the place in the page that says Canva link to headshot. So link to Canva headshot. Okay, this is way too. So if you're not sure how to get a professional headshot, I've just made it easy for you. That Canva headshot link will give you an ability to, basically set it up for yourself. I'm just going to show you how to do it. We're not going to do it now because it's going to waste a lot of time. But I just wanted to give you that tip because it's very useful. So let me show you on the screen what I'm doing. So I know I'm doing that. Give me a minute. There's way too many things going on right now. Okay, so if you have a picture that you want to use as a headshot, that's what you can use in the first page. Let me just show you what that template might look like. Just use it as a template. Click on use it as a template. So place that first picture, basically, that's the headshot that you want to use. The second thing you want to do on Canva, you do need Canva Premium for this. If not, you can use any background remover tool that is available for free on the web. Remove the background. The third step is that you want to add a background color to this page and click and drag the photo to be full screen like this, right? Change the color to something here, something like, many people use yellow because yellow is really bright and it's easily popping out on social media, and make the picture big. Now what you want to do is, after this is done, make sure that you save this one. Save page number 2. So I'm going to click on share, click on download. PNG is fine, not transparent background. You want to preserve that color. Save that page, download it. Okay, all of that is done. So first step was this picture, right? Now you're left with another picture with this color. Upload that on Canva. You will be left with that on the left. Add a circular frame. So add a page, go to elements, click on circle. So circle frame, and then you will come up with frames here. This is a frame. Just click and drag that image into the frame. That's about it. Okay, so that's how you create a professional looking headshot. If you already have it, great. If you don't have it, that's the easier way to do it. Once you've clicked and dragged that picture into the circle, you can always double click that to crop it out. You could rearrange it a little bit and crop it out, maximize it and all of that. As long as the color is there in the background in this step, it'll look perfect. Now what I'm going to do is, for page number 4, I'm going to share and download page number 4 as a PNG, but this time with a transparent background. I don't have premium on this account, but if you had it, then you can remove the background in that way. Otherwise, just download it from here and remove the background again, just what you did in the step 1. So just download this one and you have a professional headshot. That's about it. It's all done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my portfolio and make sure I can add some of this stuff. So if you don't have that picture, just go ahead and add any picture. So /picture image, unsplash and add any picture that you want. Otherwise, if you do have an image, go to upload file, go to downloads and find the headshot. I do have a square headshot right now, so I'm going to open that and it has been added in this way. Now, in addition to this, you are actually left with 2 other blocks on the right? So what you want to do is, this picture is way too big. So you're going to rearrange some of the stuff to make sure that the picture is small enough. So I'm going to rearrange this so that the picture is tiny. If it was in a circular frame and everything, admittedly, it will look much better. So that's the reason why I gave you the access to that Canva template. So let's go ahead and start typing some of this stuff. You're not able to see it. Yeah. So this is all I was showing you. Is just I added a picture and I changed the size of the column. Originally, it was this big. I don't like it. So I just clicked and dragged the size of the column. So now I think this is okay. These 2 columns are now available for me that are blank for me to start writing. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm using basically something that I've already written earlier. As you saw it in the template that you have access to right now, It's a good idea to talk about your introduction, talk about what you do in one line. In my case, I just say I'm a no-code educator. And after that, I basically summarized what I do in 3 points. So write exactly what you do in one line and then follow it by 3 points of highlights of what you do as a professional. Okay, let me go and check out where that link is because I've lost it in all of this. So I'm just going to copy paste whatever I already have, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. But in the meantime, you give it a shot about trying how you would talk about what you do. Okay. So for me, I said, hi, I'm Vensi Krishna. I teach people how to build websites and apps without writing code. In pretty much the same way as I introduced myself to you today. Ideally, you should have a soundbite like that about what you do so that you can actually stick to that every time you talk to someone about what you do. So this is what I've written. In 3 points, I've talked about no-code educator, Notion ambassador, and my previous experience. In the same way, you want to highlight something from your life, that's a great idea, great time to do that, okay? Because this is the first section that people have access to. Now, after you're done writing that content, here are a few tips, okay? The first thing I've done is I went ahead and I bolded the first line. I made sure there's a gap in the second line. And the 3 pointers are actually bullet points. How do you come up with bullet points? Hyphen space turns a line into a bullet point in Notion, right? So it's basically like if I'm in a blank line, I say hyphen space, it turns it into a bullet point, okay? So basically the first line, bold, the next 3 in bullet points is a great idea. Something else, if you've noticed, I've given them a link to my most popular social media profile or internet presence. It could be your blog, it could be a newsletter, it could be your website. For me, it was Twitter. So my name, I've actually selected the words and I linked it to Twitter. The last thing, I'm sure sharp-eyed participants have already noticed, to spruce something like this up is by adding emojis. So if you're using it on your phone, great, it's very easy. But if you're on your computer, then on Mac, it's basically Control Command Space. On Windows, I'm not really sure, I completely forgot. But if the emojis that you want are not visible, the best way to do it is by just going into a new tab and Googling for that emoji and copy pasting it. Sorry?
And then you type the
colon and emoji name. Yeah, so you don't always find the emojis that you're looking for in that way, right? If you don't know exactly what you're searching for. But yeah, that's, I'm pretty sure there's an, so on Apple, this is on-screen keyboard on which I'm using the emojis from. I'm sure there is some app like that for Windows. We can figure that out.
for that space.
Hyphen space. Yeah. Great. So awesome. We're done with 2 columns in the first section. I mean, adding emojis on your Notion documents really spruces things up. It really changes your millennial look to a Gen Z look, if that is what you're going for. Not always. Definitely, there's probably something you're not looking for, but helpful to know that that's possible. The last thing we're going to do on this row is education. So what are the 3 top educational qualifications that you have, right? So the way I've done that is by first adding an emoji here to denote education. For me, usually I denote education or courses by that graduation cap. That's the name of the emoji, graduation cap. And so that's been added on one line. I clicked on enter and I wrote education. And I bolded education. Okay. So that's about it. And then I went ahead and I started basically writing the year in which I did it. So 2018, I studied, 2018, I actually studied law. So I just said, well, what is it? the name of the university that hands that certification. So maybe it's 2 for you instead of 3, that's fine. But if you've done any online courses, or if you've done any certifications or any programs, for instance, at Growth School, this is a good place to show off what you're proud about, right? I would say limit it to 3, not more than 3. But what I've done is I went to 2018, which is the year. I've bolded it, I've italicized it, and I've also changed the color to gray. This is what I've done to all 3. So let me show you what that will look like for 3 things instead of 2. That's what it will look like. And something else that looks a little different is that after education, I've actually given it a little space like that, so that everything is in one line. All right. So we're done with the header section. If you have any questions about the header section, please let me know. But now we're going to move on to the databases. Okay. The first header section is all about formatting, layouts, all of it. How do you prettify things, all of that, right? So now, before we go ahead, I want to give you a call out. Please make sure, whatever you do from here, please make sure that you're not typing in columns anymore. It's very, very important. For now, what is happening? You've already created those 3-column structure in the beginning, right? So what might happen is everything from now will follow that 3-column layout. So what do I mean by that? If I click on, if after the last educational qualification, I type enter, 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 everything's happening on that 3rd column. And you don't want that to happen. You want it to look like there's one section on the top, another section in the middle, and then so on, right? So how do you make that happen? Instead of clicking enter, enter like that, make one block, click and drag that block towards the bottom of that section to make sure that one horizontal line has been created, which means that the columns have now been broken. Okay. This block in the center throughout the page means that the column structure has been broken now. Okay. So that's great. We've broken down those columns. Now, the reason why this is important to do is because if you open this page in a phone without that breakage, without that block in between, it will show everything in the first column first, followed by everything on the page in the second column. Then it will go on to the 3rd column. That is not what you wanted to do, right? First, you wanted to show the first column. So section 1, section 2, section 3, and then a break, and then the second row. So section 1, section 2, section 3. So that is how you make this happen, is by making sure that there is a row that has broken the column structure. Great. Now, once that is done, you do the same thing that we did earlier, /3 columns yet again, because that is what we're going to do right now. Actually, instead of 3 columns, I want 2. So I'm going to click one of the 3 and click on delete. So now I'm left with 2 columns like so. Okay. So 2 columns is fine. It's enough. If you want to add something else, some more images and all of that, do that after the workshop is done. But I just showed you how to do it. So instead of having the page divided into 2 sections or 2 equal parts, I want to remove some of this size of the first column, make it really small. Okay, what do I mean by that? Is something like this. So this way. Okay, so the first column is small and the second column is much larger, like maybe like this is 25%, that is 75%. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead with the second part of the page. Let me show you what that is. So we're going to go with the work experience part of things. Now, ideally, you should have way more work experience here listed than this. I would have listed all my law firm experiences and all of that. It would be way more than 9 or 10 or 11. That's fine. But make sure that it looks good. Ideally, it should be in multiples of 3 because this is a large layout. Let me show you what that looks like. So go back to portfolio. You have 2 columns now. The first section that I showed you is highlights. The second one is work experience. The first section is highlights, is a simple text that we created like earlier. On the right, whatever is there, that is a database. So let's go ahead and finish that. So think about it. Think about the work experience you have so far. and think about the 3 most important highlights or 3 of the most proud accomplishments that you have in the last 5 years. Even as a student, it's fine. Something that you're really proud of. So that will go in the highlight section right now. So it could be what you've done for your company. It could be what you've done for your college. Anything is fine.
Highlights is heading 3.
Highlights is heading 2. So let me show you what that looks like. So to add highlights, I'm just typing 2 hashtags space. It becomes heading 2. I'm writing highlights here. Okay. Now I've written 3 highlights. Again, the beginning of each of these highlights, I've added an emoji. Why is that happening?
It's been giving us trouble.
Okay, great. So guys, this is what I'm talking about. I added highlights. I just added an emoji in the beginning, just so that it is a little more descriptive of what that highlight is. Okay. So you can stylize it the way you want, but just think about the most important highlights, because on the right, whatever we're going to build now in the database, it's going to get really crowded. So it's good for you to give some highlights about what people should remember. What is the key takeaway from this section? Now, think about those highlights, stylize that in a bit, but I'm going to show you what to do with the database right now. Okay. Please pay attention to this part. If you've never built portfolios before, on Notion, that is, / anything in Notion is /. This time we're going to build databases. Okay. So database inline is fine. And here, what I'm going to do is against untitled, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the 3 dots and I'm going to click hide database title. Okay. Against untitled, there's 3 dots. Click on those 3 dots and say hide database title. It will go. On the top, it says table. I'm going to click on table and I'm going to click on edit view. Okay. Table and edit view. It will open that panel on the right. First thing is that little icon that you're seeing there. That's basically the icon that you can give to the view here. I'm going to change it to work experience, right? So I'm going to say briefcase. Briefcase icon, and the name of this view would be work experience. Okay. For now, I'm going to leave it as a table. I'm going to click out. I'm going to leave it as a table. So the first column is going to be the role. The second column, by default, Notion gives you a tags column. I'm going to change that to type text. And I'm going to either it could be text or it could be a single select option. If you've had the same role, if you had different roles in the same company, single text works really well because you can organize it better later. So what do I mean by this? Let me show you what I mean. So instead of text, I'm going to go with single select and I'm going to change tags to company name. Okay. Yeah, sure. I can do that. Is that better? Okay, great. Okay, awesome. Any questions so far, or can we move ahead? All right, so this is the hard part. If you've already used Notion so far, whatever I've given you are tips. What we're talking right now is the database. It could be a little more interesting. So the first column is role. The second column, I've changed it to company name. Change it from multi-select to single select. Go ahead.
What is the icon there?
It's a single select.
Okay.
So instead of multi-select, which it was already, I'm using it as a single select. Great. So so what do you say in a work experience? Basically, you talk about your role, you talk about your company, you also talk about when you worked in that company for. So lucky for us, Notion already has a date column. So I'm going to go with plus, which is a new column, and I'm going to search for date. So there's a date column there. I'm going to add a date. Dates worked is the name of the column. and type is date, full date, 2012 hours, that's completely fine. So dates worked is the third column. And finally, I'm going to add one more column. Here, I'm going to add files and media because I want to add a picture. The company name or the company logo rather is going to be the picture for that cover. So I'm going to add a files and media column. So there's the role that you played in that company, company name, dates worked in, files and media. These are the 4 columns that I'm creating. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type the name of the role. So I'm going to say role 1, company 1, write whatever those companies are, whatever those roles are. Please go ahead and type that out. Dates worked. So this is what happens when I zoom in. Let me try my best here. Make sure when there's a date selected, there's the end date that is selected also. So on the top left, now you have December 18th. The top right also you have December 18th, which is today and today. December 18th, you change it to the first date that you worked. Let's say November 1st, 2021 to maybe I worked until April this year. So that is what I'm going to select. So that's over. Okay. So company 1, dates worked, and files and media. In files and media, let's say you worked in Google. All I have to do is search for the company's logo online if it's already there, instead of downloading it and uploading it again. So let's say I will search for Google logo. Basically, the name of the logo of the company where you've worked. So I'm gonna just click on copy image address on Google and paste it here. As long as, okay, so now you see that this link is not ending as .jpg or .png, right? So most likely it's not going to work. Instead, let's try this. Copy image address. Let's see if that works. Yes, that's a .png. That should work. Link. And Notion will take a couple of seconds for it to upload, and you see that it has already populated. Okay. So all you've done is add the name of a role, name of a company, dates that you worked in that company, and the picture, which is the logo of the company. That's about it. Okay. So now you can add as many roles as you want. It's easy to do to the table format, which is why we're doing it in the table format. But the end goal is to create a gallery. What do I mean by that is if I click on the plus right next to the work experience, you can create a new view. This time, instead of a table, I'm going to click on gallery. And before I click on done, I'm going to click on card preview. Shouldn't be page content. It should be files and media, because that is the image that we've added, right? So what do I mean by that is simply work experience. Instead of files and media being called files and media, let's say company logo, because that is what you're uploading in that column, right? So we've changed the name of the column there simply. So when I created that gallery, Notion is going to ask me, okay, I've created a gallery for you, layout, but where do you want that card to take the preview from? Should it take the content from inside the page? You're saying no. I wanted to take it from a column called company logo, where I'm already uploading pictures. So I've clicked on that, and now by default, Notion is taking the images from that column. Every time you upload an image in that column, it will take it from there. Now I'm going to say fit image, because that is the best way in which you can fit the logo. All right. So card size, instead of medium, I'm going to say small. If I add small, this is what it will look like. Okay. So you can play around with that. If you say medium, it's usually going to be, I believe, 4 cards. If you say large, I think maybe 2 or 3 cards. So depending on how much experience you have, it's a good idea to play around with those multiples. Multiples of 3 or 4 work best. If you have 6 work experiences, it works best for you. Because in this case, what happens is it's going to be 2 and then another. So there's 3 and then another row of 3, right? So in this case, I've added, it's not automatically changing. Screen, does that work? Still not working? No problem. So in this case, I use Switchboard, On Deck, and LSAC, right? So I didn't save any of these pictures. I just got it online. So you can do something like that. The only disadvantage, and I want to tell you right now, is if that website where this image is being hosted right now takes that image down, Notion no longer has that source. So you can't rely on that. If it is a publicly viewable document that's very important for your career, for example, as a portfolio, better to save those pictures on your computer and then upload it. When Notion uploads it, it will save an instance of that on its servers, and then you don't, even if you delete them from your computer, that's completely fine. Okay, so just giving you a heads up there. So basically, that's what we've done with highlights and work experience. In this case, I've only added Google for now, as you saw, and therefore it looks a little weird for role 1. But if you add role 2, role 3, it starts looking much better. Okay, but this is basically the concept. Now, instead of adding another gallery that I did to show you what that looks like, I'm going to go delete that gallery view, delete that view. I have work experience already set up, right? So I'm going to click on that view, edit view. Instead of layout being a table, I'm going to change that to gallery. Same step that I did earlier, but on the same one. And card preview should be company logo. And card size, instead of medium, I like small. Let's say that's better. The last step that I have not done, as you remember, is properties. Okay, even before that, I told you, right, the layout has to be fit image should be selected so that the logo looks better. The last thing I want to tell you is properties. So here it's only showing the role. Company logo is already given, so company name need not be displayed. It's fine. But dates worked should ideally be displayed. So I will just go ahead and click on the eye icon. Right now, the eye icon is stricken off. It's gray, which means it is hidden. So I'm going to click on that eye icon and it's on. Okay, so now I'm going to take a pause and give you a chance to ask questions. How is it coming along? Are you building so far with me? If you have any problems, where are you stuck? Either you're not building at all or you've already built everything. So let me know where you are right now. Okay, great. Database views. Yeah, as long as you're done with the columns, you just have to change it into a gallery whenever you're ready. Okay, so anyone else stuck somewhere else? How to add a new column in a table like this. Scroll towards the end. On the top right, there's a plus button, right? Can you see? Yeah, that's how you add a new column. Okay. So the thing is, whatever we're going to do in the next 2 sections is literally the same thing. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to take a really hard pause here, give you a chance to ask me questions, because whatever we're going to do in the next 2 sections is literally the same thing. But we're going to change the database views a little bit here and there. Any other questions, guys? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you like 2 to 3 minutes until you build this out on your by yourself. If you have any questions wherever you're stuck, you can ask me. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of time, because this is literally the same thing we're going to do for section 3 and section 4. Any questions? For now, the column names I've added are basically role, company logo for the image, company name, and dates worked. You can add, I mean, you can have any names, it's okay. Whatever that makes sense for you would be the best.
Show the company names and everything like below the card.
If you want to show the company name below the card,
Company, anything like role.
yeah. So if you are missing information on that card, what you have to do is on the top 3, there's 3 dots, right?
Right.
So the 3 dots, then properties, and then the hidden in gallery and shown in gallery are 2 sections, right?
Okay.
So if you click on the eye, it will toggle between shown and not shown. So company logo, I already have a company logo. I don't want to show that. Company name, company 1 is what it's called. So in that way, you can toggle it on and off. Now, yeah, I'm just going to give you some time. Just build that out. Play around. Try to build it out in the next 5 minutes. And if you're done, try to replicate whatever I've done in the next one. Increase the size of. If you want to increase the size, it would really depend. Can you tell me what is happening there? Okay, that is not increasing the size. What is done with this plus. So if you're done building the first section, try to replicate the second section also. Okay. Actually, that was the second section. So the third section. So the third section, instead of making the focus on the work experience, we're going to focus on recognition. So recognition, awards, or any way in which you have been commended for the work that you've done in any way or form. If you haven't won any awards whatsoever, then replace this section with the project section. Or better still, if you have any volunteer experience, this is probably a better idea to add it here.
Not in this one line.
That is because the size is too big. Change it to small or medium.
I haven't. The photo size you are.
Properties. No, layout. Layout. It's a layout, right? Same thing, layout. So card size is medium right now. Change it to small. Yeah, much better. Or something you can do is just change the size of the highlights here and you can it all depends on how much work experience you have, honestly. Okay, guys, any questions? Stuck anywhere? Okay, that sounds great. Let's move on to the next section then. Or do you want more time to build this out? Yeah? Who can you, by a show of hands, can you tell me who's building right now? Okay, great. I'm gonna wait. Yeah.
Can we copy the table from here and paste it together?
Yeah, you can do that. Just control C, control V. So you have to follow what is it now? You want to copy this. That one thing that you do, which you need to go and draw. Okay, any more questions? It's a really good time to ask. Because the next few sections are basically the same thing. So if you master this, then yeah, go ahead.
So I added a logo and then I'm changing it to gallery. My logo is coming down here. Instead.
Yeah, so why is that happening? Because in the layout, it's asking you, where do you get the cards reviewed from? It's a page content. You don't want that. First, you're going to say, I've already set up a column called logo. That's number one. The second thing you want to do is go back to properties and hide that other property that's from being shown. So properties, hide that. That's it. So where is your logo? Why is it not being shown? Oh, it's too big. So it's white with a transparent background. You could edit that in Canva maybe and give it a black background.
Good?
Yeah.
Talking for a while.
Yeah.
What,
No, no, all good.
afterwards, we were thinking about dividing the clubs and making them.
Yeah.
get the coverage.
Sounds good.
But I'm also concerned about the coverage.
Yeah.
How much more?
I'll wrap it up soon.
House, I'm trying to.
5:30.
5:30.
Mm.
I think we should be able to run 1 to 5:30 with your feedback and the.
Mm. Cool. Okay, guys. You can take some more time and get done with that. But in the meantime, I want to show you how to set up your next section. So let's say this is section 1 is the header. It's done. Section 2 is work experience. That's done as well. The next thing you want to do is basically have a very similar section below section number 2, right? Because you have highlights here. On the other side, you have recognition and awards. So what I'm going to do is basically going to click and drag everything in this section in this way. See? Highlights, highlight 1, 2, 3, all of that are selected, and the table on the right. Clicking and dragging and selecting everything in that section alone. Okay. I'm leaving the header alone. I'm not touching anything. In that one block that we created on the top, I'm leaving it alone. Everything below that block, I'm clicking and dragging until the end here. Okay. I'm going to Command C or Control C to copy those blocks. Okay. And we're going to repeat the same step that we did to create these 3 columns in section 2. What did we do there? We're going to first break the columns by creating a block and dragging it at the bottom to break the columns there. Why are we doing it? Again, because it's important to tell Notion what to show on the mobile. We're creating sections so that Notion would, on the mobile, it would show section 1, column 1, 2, 3. Then section 2, column 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to show it, make it show section 3. Again, column 1, 2, 3. But the thing is, we've already copied the blocks. So in a new block, under the block that we've created, that empty row that we created, just Command V or Control V. So everything that you created just now, that you've copied right now, will get pasted. Now, clearly, it doesn't look good. That is because nothing is arranged in the columns in the way we have earlier. If you try to click and drag this table, please pay attention to this part. If you try to click and drag this table and try to put it anywhere on the right, it will not work. Because by default, databases are not meant to be in columns. So a hack around that is by creating the column first and then putting the database inside that later. What do I mean by that is, so this is the empty row on the top. Oops. This is the empty row on the top. I don't want to touch that like I told you. So below that, I will create a column and another one. So 2 blocks. I'm going to use this empty block, put it on the right. This will work for sure because that's an empty block and that little right, that blue color line will come up, and I've created 2 columns here. I'm going to click and drag the size of the columns as before. This is fine. 25% and 75 is fine. And in the first column here, that little one, in this little block, I'm going to click and drag highlights, the heading highlights, highlight 1, highlight 2, and highlight 3. I'm going to just drag and drop those blocks. And if that little line is selected, it means it's going to be falling into that column. Done. Great. Same thing I'm going to do with the table. Now, because the column has already been created, the table will go and nest inside that column like so. Great. This is all good. All you have to do is change this. Change this to recognition. or maybe it's volunteering, depending on what you want to put there, recognition. Change some of that stuff and the emojis the way you want. And then it's basically the same concept, okay? Here, you know that there are 3 cards that we're using right now. By the way, if you want to change that size of those cards, you can just click and drag the column here as well. Please check this out. If I drag this a little bit, the size of the cards and the number of those cards are also changing. So just drag it until there are 3, and in a way that those 3 look good. Ideally, the size of the column on the top there, in the first section here, so you saw the size of the column there, size of the column there, and the size of the column here should match. Ideally, it should flow like a nice structure. So it should be the same column sizes everywhere. But on the right, instead of work experience being 3 cards, we could change this to layout being, okay, cards is already small. There's not much we can do. If I zoom out, sometimes it might change. Yeah, when I zoom it out, the number of cards will change. So this is usually my default view. So these are how many cards will show up. Okay, so just wanted to show you. This is literally all you have to do to create another section. So the first section we created for work experience. The second section we're going to create for awards or recognition or volunteering. And it's the same concept. In the table, you will add all of that stuff, and then finally you'll change it into a gallery where it is showing up with the names of the companies, or so if it's a volunteering place, then the NGOs where you volunteered. If it's awards, then maybe a photo of you receiving that award, maybe, or the certificates picture. Could be anything, honestly. One other thing I want to do here is, if I click on one of these pages, I will also have an option now to add icon. In this icon, because it's awards, I can actually just search for a trophy and add that to every instance of it. Here, because it's a work experience, I'm going to add maybe something else like a briefcase. Depends on what you want to do. Because it's Google, maybe I'm going to go with Earth. Like that, right? The emojis are definitely useful. The reason why I'm doing this, why I'm going and adding those icons, is because if I didn't add an icon, let's say I went to this icon and I clicked on remove, there's no icon at all. Let's say I start typing something here. There's some content in this page right now. When I click out, it automatically has an icon of a page. See? Whenever there is anything inside that page, Notion always gives it an icon. However, let's say there's a card here that does not have, so let's say I work at Yahoo, but it doesn't have any content inside the page. There won't be an icon. So there is some mismatch there. So instead of waiting for Notion to set up an icon, I think the better way to do is just set up your own icon, and whether there is page content or not. Okay. So if I repeat the same step that I did for recognition one more time, which is basically just going and copy pasting the same thing one more time and arranging it into column and then database column, what will happen then is I will have the last section of my portfolio, which is projects. Now, projects is a really important section where ideally you talk about every big project that you've worked on. Even if it's in the same company, I'm sure you might have worked on 2-3 different things. It's a good idea to showcase all of that. Now, instead of adding pictures and making it more populated, more complicated, all of that, what we're going to do is, because there are more items here, so in this gallery, I want it to look like a gallery, like a card and everything, but I'm not going to add any pictures. So here, 3 dots, layout. So card preview, instead of the company logo, it's not showing anything. Amazing. Okay, great. So in this case, as you're seeing, because projects is going to be a huge section, is going to be, let's say, 15 projects that you worked on. If you add 15 pictures, there's going to be a huge cluttered gallery. Instead of doing that, what I'm going to say is I don't add any pictures, work experience, projects. Here I'm going to say in these 3 dots, the layout should be the gallery, but instead of the card preview being company logo, I don't want any card preview, so none. So now it is changed to just a card in that way, right? So if you have 15 different projects in that way, you can still fit it in. For example, I have 16 here. Let me show you what that looks like. I have 16 projects here listed in one neat gallery. So because projects is a big part of what you do at any job, I think it's a good idea to remove the card completely. So as you can see, databases. So the first one, we learned layouts. The second thing, we learned how to use databases in different ways. Card sizes being medium, card sizes being small. There's no image preview at all on certain cards. Those are all the things that we've learned. Before we move on to the footer, the last thing that I told you I will teach you is templates, right? So the last part. So I just removed the image. So the same way as you would configure an image, which is 3 dots, layout, card preview being company logo. Okay. Okay, so the source, if I change it, it's supposed to work, but it's not working, unfortunately. But let me just try this again. Okay, the same way as you would configure an image, 3 dots, layout, card preview being company logo, just make it none. Then there won't be any images that are being selected in the first place. Even if you have an image column, it will not be selected. Like it will just not have anything there. You can delete that column later if you want. Okay, great. So the last thing I want to teach you of course, footer is very easy to set up, admittedly. But the last thing I want to teach you today is in the database, when you click on one of these cards, something has to happen, right? So when I click on Google, you need to show them what you've done at Google. What are the projects you've worked on? Who you've worked with, your proudest accomplishments, let's say. The thing is, wherever you work, you want to display certain things, whether it's Google, whether it's Yahoo, or let's say you have 9 different work experiences. You want to showcase exactly what you've done in that workspace. For example, let's say what we have in the example build. When you open a build, let's say switchboard, it's saying role summary, key accomplishments, projects completed, and top learnings. So these are the 4 things that need to be displayed for every role that you have in that work experience. Let's say that is what you want to show. So instead of just copy pasting that entire thing or writing it all over again, let's say we just want to repeat that same structure with those emojis, that H1 stylized, all of that. So this is where templates will come into use. Every time there is a database, there can be a template. I want to show you how to set that up. So let me go to portfolio and let's just click on one of those roles that you have. Role 1 is Google. Let me just go to role 1. When I go down, I just started typing something. I'm going to click on that block and delete, and click on this block and delete. Okay, now it works, right? So I'm just saying, just open any of the roles that you have on your work experience. Right now, there's nothing in the page, right? If you have something, I'm saying just delete everything. If you had something in the page written, just delete everything. But otherwise, it's anyway by default like this. If you click on that, it will start with a new block. It will add a new block. That will be a content that would have already been created. Instead of that, just click on create a template. Okay, create a template. So here, this is the title of the template. You can give it a template name. You can just say template 1 or just role name, because role name will go in the header, right? The main title of the card will be role name. So I'm just going to say role name. And whenever the template is created, it will say, do you want it to by default have a company name? So for example, you can create a template for all the work that you've done in Google. So when you click on Google as a template, it would automatically fill in the company name as Google. So I don't want to change any of that, because you want to change company name, company logo, depending on the role. But the one thing that would automatically be the same for every role would be what you've done at that role, right? The first thing is role summary. The first heading is H1. So either you can say /H1 in this way, or 1 hashtag space is also H1. Role summary, key, and then again 1 hashtag space, same heading 1 would be key accomplishments. And what else? What do you want? What else do you want to show? Let me see one. Projects completed, right? Or learnings, maybe. Yeah, top learnings is better. projects completed or top learnings, fine. All of this is great. So now this is great. So role summary, you can add 3 lines, leave those 3 lines blank. Key accomplishments, maybe you could actually type 1, or you can add a bullet point, space X, enter Y, enter Z, just to show that it will be written in bullet points. And top learning would be A, or similar to what we had, like bullet point X, bullet point Y, and bullet point Z. Okay, so now what happened right now is, whatever we've created is a blank template. It doesn't have anything. So we're just saying, use this blank template every time I have a role. So if I go ahead and just click out, I don't have to save anything. It automatically saves stuff. I don't have to do anything. I just have to click out. It's done. So when I open Google again, when I open the card this time, instead of saying go empty, it says pick a template, because we've already created a template which starts with role name. So if I click on role name here, it's automatically populating it with all the blanks that we've created. Right? So if you have 5 different templates, you can choose whichever template you want. If you're creating a journaling dashboard for yourself, you can create different templates for when you're feeling sad, for when you're feeling happy. Or if it's a morning journal, you could say, my morning pages template. Or if you're writing it in the evening, maybe an evening template. So this is where templates can be very useful. The thing is, one last thing I want to show you is when you click on the top 3 dots in any database to configure the card, preview, all of that, the other option that you will have is basically, okay, let's not go there yet. Let me just finish the template stuff. So the new blue button that is there, that is basically creating a new item in any database. If I don't click on new and I click on the arrow next to new, it will show you all the templates that are there also. So instead of creating a blank item, it will create an item with that template applied. So in case empty page is default, obviously when you click on that new button, an empty page will be created. But if I go with this role name and 3 dots and then make it as set as default for all views or only on that work view, it's fine. Now when I click on new, this template will automatically be applied. I don't have to apply it again. So by default, this template will be applied. So this is a handy workaround. It's a good trick to have. Great. So templates are useful because there might be things, there might be snippets that will repeat for you, recur for you. You don't want to waste your time typing it over and over and over again. So it's very, very useful. Okay. Great. So please go ahead and finalize your builds. The last part is just the footer. The way I've added the footer is making sure that there is the columns are broken down. How do you make the columns break down? You add the block again at the end. Not like that, but like this. Make sure there's a big line. Here I'm going to say / and I'm searching for div, divider. And a line has been created. And I'm going to say header 1, that is hashtag space, my name, your name, full name. And then finally, I'm going to say copyright 2023, all rights reserved. And that's about it for your footer. Something else I've done for the footer, if you remember, is that I've also given all the social media links. If you want social media links, now you're good at this stuff. You tell me how to make this happen. Actually, take that up as a challenge and do it yourself. How would you create this section on the right? Right? So that's your homework for the rest of the class. But yeah, you can wrap up your builds, guys. That's pretty much it. Just make sure that your portfolio looks great and we will demo the best ones now. How was it, you guys? Were you able to follow through throughout the session? Okay, awesome. You guys have made at least the base template now? Yeah. Yes, everybody has their base template ready? Okay, so we're going to make it a little bit more interesting, but before we do that, would you like to take a 5-minute break? No? Yes. They need to know what that interesting part is to decide if they need a break before that. So when you come back, we'll give you another 15 minutes to fill up the information in your template from your various resources like your resume, your LinkedIn profile, other details, whatever you have, right? Once you fill that up, we'll basically break you into groups
right, of 5, where you guys will basically like, get review from your feedback from your peers who are right here, right? And later on, then we'll obviously like, for people online, we're going to basically do the similar activity with you. So by take this time to basically start building your portfolio under your template, and then we'll put you into breakout rooms and you can do the same activity online. Okay. Give me yes in the chat box if you're right here. Hi Vikram, hi Kartikeya, hi Ranganath, hi Kevin. We'll be doing an activity now. We'll put you guys in this room and then you can give feedback to each other. So by the time everybody else is working on their portfolios, would recommend that you start filling up your template through your resume and your LinkedIn profile. And then we'll start the feedback round amongst you. Okay. Are we good? Can you give me a yes, no in the chat box, please? Awesome. Vikram, Kevin. Okay, awesome. There's just few of you, so I'm going to basically take your names until and bully you into writing a yes till you do. Kartikeyan. Okay, so let's get started, you guys. We'll be back. We'll start the activity by 5:15. Okay, about the feedback bit of it. So start working on your portfolios and stay tuned.